To
I
be
am
late.
ready to go. So I'm George Shepard, Chair of the Conservation Commission, and I call this meeting of the Conservation Commission to order. Members present include Melissa Webster, Dan Wells, Sylvia Willard, and myself. We also have the uh, administrator, Megan Sullivan, and Noel. I never get your title right. What is your title? Planning board or something? Planning?
Planning and Land Use Coordinator.
Okay, great. So
It's a
we
little
have
long.
So we have four members of the Commission, and let's see, I just need to save this file.
And two staff.
And yeah, on a whole bunch of people. Oh my gosh. I hope they're not too worried tonight. We'll find out. All right. So continuing on. For this meeting, the Conservation Commission is convening by telephone or Zoom web conference as posted on the town website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Accordingly, please be aware that other participants may be able to hear you, and anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. And you watch out because we get all the notes and minutes by AI, and they may include embarrassing material. All participants should keep their phones or microphones muted unless recognized by me. So I will call on each speaker to address the commission. If you wish to address the commission, please click on the raised hand icon or ask to speak by posting a request in the chat feature. Please identify yourself at the start of remarks. All right. So moving on to the agenda at 7:08. This is public hearing
Oh,
DEP.
sorry, George. Can I just interrupt for a
Oh,
moment?
sure. Oh,
So I've been putting community input at the start of the meeting. I noticed the select board and other various boards and towns just put a 5-minute window for general community input at the start of the meeting. Of course, we take input throughout the meeting on public hearings and other items of interest, but I just have been recommended to put that at the start of the agenda, so I just wanted to call that out.
do we have community input that we need to discuss or examine? Or is just saying that we accept community input and it's welcome.
Exactly. It's probably likely we won't have, I mean, I don't know. Probably likely we won't have it every meeting, but I think it's just good to have built into the agenda in case a
Okay.
resident has something they want to say.
I don't think we've done that before, so I was a little surprised, but now we understand. All right.
George,
At seven,
George,
yes.
I am here, Navneet Hundal. I am still at work. I am joining the meeting. If I don't answer, it's because I had to step away, just letting you guys know during votes.
Thank you, Navneet. I'm
Yep.
glad you're here. All right. So moving on to the public hearing at
No, I thought that
7:10. Notice of intent, DEP 125-1210. This is 80 Wester Street, parcel 21-1-0. The applicant is Town of Carlisle. This is renovation of the existing fire station, a building addition, and site improvements, including parking lots, sidewalks, stormwater infrastructure, utilities, and landscaping within the 100-foot buffer zone in the inland bank and bordering vegetated wetlands. So you had some good comments in here. Megan, do you want to summarize?
Um, let's see. I think I saw Josue on here from Fuss and O'Neill on behalf of the applicants. So my comments were generally just that we're still waiting for revised plans and that we're still waiting for a peer review and the wetland delineation to be confirmed. So it's likely that this will be continued. But Josue, do you have anything you'd like to update the commission on tonight?
Um, hello, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So yeah, my name is Josue Valdez, and I am a civil engineer with Foster O'Neill, a registered professional engineer in the state of Massachusetts. Um, I've been in front of the board before to speak about the same project. And like Megan mentioned, we are right now kind of like waiting on the peer review. We had planning board hearing this week. We had Board of Health hearing this week. And we've been making really small changes to the plans based on comments we have received from planning and the Board of Health. The Board of Health did perform a peer review of the proposed septic system on site. That's pretty much almost resolved. We're doing the final tweaks to resubmit tomorrow and get that approved. In similar manner on planning board, we got some comments from planning board, but the peer review comments are still not here yet. We are planning on resubmitting with a few changes they asked for. We're planning on resubmitting tomorrow. So like the plan, I'm gonna share my screen for a second, just for reference. Am I sharing my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Let's see. What about now?
Here it comes.
Okay.
There we go.
So this is, I won't go through the entire presentation. This is pretty much the same presentation I had before. I do want to point out that this is our current or the site plan that was submitted to COMCOM. Like I said, we've been working on making a few small changes per comments we received from other boards. For the most part, nothing significant enough to like flag for the board. There is one comment that we got from planning board that we do want to share with the board before we even make that change to see how the board feels about that one, because that one will be a more significant and noticeable change if we were to proceed. So as we come into the site here from West First Street, on the eastern driveway, just for reference, north is pointing up here. So this is straight north. So if you come in where my cursor is from this driveway and you come into your site, you have a 24-foot drive that then becomes into a pretty big area that is like designated for the trucks. And then as you keep coming here, you have a one-way driveway. You can see the arrow here. This driveway is only 14 feet. We've been requested by the board, by the planning board, to make that driveway a 20 feet wide driveway with the intent of making it a two-way also. Because right now this is the only one-way drive we have. And as you go in, everything else is two ways, but this one here is just one way. So they want to create like a way that if you park on the back and you want to live to this side or vice versa, you can do that. And not to create like a call it like a, not to restrict, the flows, just to go kind of like counterclockwise. And by doing that, we will be, right now the driveway is 14, so we will be adding another 6-7 feet all in to the width of the driveway, which means we will be expanding the limit of work on the right side. This should not have any impact on the tree clearing. As you see, the tree line, which is this line on the back, is still far out. So we're not really expecting to get that far. But we will, if we were to make that change, we will be getting, more into the buffer of the wetland. And that's kind of the one change that has been requested by planning that we wanted to share with this board, just to see, if how you felt about that one before we proceed. Everything else small enough and significant enough that once we resubmit tomorrow.
The building's been expanded to include the parking lot.
Excuse me? Well,
I'm sorry, what was the comment? It says Margie Finley, but I don't believe I heard a female voice.
Oh, can you say something? I'm sorry, I meant to mute, but
Oh, okay.
we may have a comment later.
All right.
Okay. So again, like I said, that's the biggest change um that we've been requested, and the one that it will have a significant change when compared to these plans. Everything else is
Understood.
pretty much
Understood.
and everything else is pretty much the same. We've been in coordination with Megan. She's been great at helping us coordinate the weather determination. The weather is finally getting nicer, so we have um, high expectations that we should be able to do the determination. Um, if not this week, the following week. So before the next hearing, um, and we feel pretty confident also that our goal is that before next hearing we should have everything pretty wrapped up also with the other boards with the intent of obtaining approval from planning and Comcom by the end of the month. So thank you.
Okay. So let me ask, on that right-hand side of the driveway where it currently is one way, is that a slope? Yeah, I see the tree line in there, so you're going to get really close to the tree line. And then is there a slope that goes down to the wetlands?
There is a slope. So if you see this line, this
Yeah,
darker
yeah.
line that I just traced, that's the current limit of work. So this current limit of work is going to be more in line with the tree line now. I'm not expecting to encroach into the existing tree line by making the driveway bigger, but there is a small chance that we might. It will be really close now by pushing this another 6-7 feet to the right.
Okay. No, I'm just thinking of, plowing that road and so on and having water flow down into the wetlands. And is it a significant slope that goes down that way?
It is a significant. It's probably 3-4 feet drop over 15-20 feet. So nothing super crazy, but significant enough to be noticeable.
Okay, all right. Well, that sounds reasonable. Okay. Any other commissioners have comments or questions?
Can I say something? Sylvia?
Yes, please.
Two things. One, were you planning to, DEP commented about the protection area around the water supply well for the town hall. Are you planning to put that on the plan?
Yes, the plan that will be resubmitted tomorrow will have all of that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And where again is the snow storage in case we get another winter like this one?
So at that point, what we are planning on doing, and it will be shown on the figure, it's that we're gonna designate parking spaces to be used because at that point, that's
That's right.
that's the last resort. So it will be parking spaces outside of the zone one. So unfortunately, it will be probably the some of the parking spaces on the front, like this area here, pretty much. Because like Megan mentioned before, we can't plow snow from other areas to send it to the zone one. You can only store the snow from the zone one on the zone one, but you can't bring out
Right.
of.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we will be showing those areas. But unfortunately, that's how you deal with those big snowstorms. Just too much to really not use parking spaces at that point.
Okay. Do you have any roof runoff planned? I mean, are you draining the roof?
Yes, so the roof will have roof leaders and internal roof drains, and they're gonna be piped underneath to the detention systems that we have. So it will be all underground.
Mhm.
Yeah, should be shown on our CG 101 sheet, which I don't really have for this presentation since it's
Okay.
technically outside of the buffer, but yes, we have that in the submission to the board, and it will be a revised plan on the resubmission that we will be sending or revised documents. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
it looks like you have about 20 parking spaces available or thereabouts.
It's about 31.
31 now. Oh, yes, I see another 5 I missed.
Yeah.
And 2 more. So I guess the question is, what do we think on a normal day when we've got a fire emergency? How many cars do we expect to be on site? Maybe
So
that's
for
not a question for you, but I'm just curious.
what I've heard from the chief on a regular basis, I think their permanent staff here is not a lot. It's like 4 to 8 people at most. So from a permanent staff perspective, it's not a lot. But I have also heard that the town is in need of additional parking, especially with the town hall being right next to it. So the hopes is that some of these parking could also be shared with the town hall. That's my understanding. But like you said, it's probably more for you, the town and the fire department to really decide on that. But that has been the conversations that I've had.
I was just thinking that, the normal staff is probably, 3, 4, 5 people, but
Yes.
then we have a volunteer fire department, so everybody runs down to the fire station and parks, and I have no idea how many cars that we're supposed to put up with under those conditions. And maybe that's a question for the fire department.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, they have what I've heard is that they feel they have the parking that they need for the responses. Um, it's more than enough. It's a matter of how much of these parking spaces are used by the town hall if needed. I think that's where I don't have all that information. But my
Okay, okay.
understanding and my direction has been to maximize the site, to try to minimize the amount of work that we do within the buffer, but at the same time to add as much parking space as we can.
Understood.
Knowing
Okay.
that, yeah, that's been the approach.
Any other commissioners with a comment or question? I will open it up to the public. Anybody have any comments or questions? And Megan, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I have a question quickly, if you don't mind. So I guess I think it's probably, as Jose mentioned, I think it might be important to focus on whether or not the commission is open to expanding that portion on the right side of the building. Since we're waiting for revisions from all of our previous comments, it seems like this is kind of the newest update. So I think it might be important to focus on that. And I guess my question for that would be, so are the planning board's comments of widening that drive area, is it related to like public safety, or is it just because it would be a little easier? If it's related to public safety, then definitely I think widening it should be considered. But it seems like the fire chief and the fire department seemed like they were okay with the current design. So if we can avoid encroaching into the wetland, I would prefer that. But I guess I'm just trying to understand the reason behind the planning board's comments, if it's just for convenience, or if it's more related to like a more serious issue. And I
It's
can talk to planning over this too behind the scenes, but I was just wondering what your take on that was.
Yes, that would be for sure my recommendation. That I feel this is
Okay.
one thing that talking to planning of these meetings is probably the best thing. Um, like you mentioned, we had this shown as a one way, and to my understanding, the fire department actually was no, they have no concern with this. But planning board did feel that showing us a two-way was more convenient for the site, not that way, not restricting everybody once they go back to just come back using one of the driveways and instead of maximizing both driveways to have a more normal and continuous circulation. But my understanding is this is not coming from the fire department; it's coming from the planning board.
Okay.
So, Megan, maybe having an off conversation to kind of like see what's the middle ground, because that was my take. I felt that this is something that I didn't want to make that change without talking with the board, with the Conservation Commission, because it's not necessarily coming from the bylaws. So it's not like, hey, you must do this. It is a good thing for them, for us to do. But I don't want to do a good thing for planning that will result in being a bad thing for Comcom. And that's to your point where we just want to understand where the commission today stand on like what's their take on expanding that, so then we can kind of like bring that back to planning and like have that, you know, conversation of where we stand. pretty much.
Got it. Okay, thanks. I can definitely have some conversations offline if the commission would like.
I guess just on that, piggybacking on that, if it's just for convenience, then I'm not sure that that's a um, that's something I would be totally in support of. But if there's another reason, uh, like public safety, as you're mentioning, Megan, then of course. But I just want to say that put it on the record that if it's just for convenience, I don't know if that's a good change.
And I agree with you. We need to know the rationale. I
I
see.
I agree too.
I see, Christina. You have your hand up.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I was actually at the planning board meeting when this was discussed, and to be clear, it wasn't the entire planning board meeting. It wasn't the entire planning board that was advocating for this. It was one member who was advocating for widening it. And what I got from the reasoning was that it's a 40-year building, if you will, and thinking into the future, he was advocating for just having it wider. I think more out of convenience. And the fire chief at that meeting iterated that he was okay with the plan the way it was. Just the
All right, thank you.
if
Good
it helps.
comment. It
Thank
does. Eric.
Hi, Eric Kapalis, 105 Knoll Farm, co-chair of the Fire Station Building Renovation Committee, and I can echo things that Christina just said, especially regarding the fire chief. Brian Sorrows is okay with that. The site is highly constrained. There is a lot of attention paid to the public safety vehicles, the fire trucks and the ambulances, the in and outs, so the paths are well understood, turning radii, etc. I'm going to speak from my personal perspective here that the convenience or the functionality that would be added by two-way traffic flow there at whatever expense comes along with that is just not worth it because you just don't have a lot of traffic through. This is not something, this sees a few cars a day. There's no inconvenience. Again, that's my personal position. But the fire station personnel, the fire chief, all of it is okay with that one direction for that one part of the plot plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Good comment. Margie.
Oh, it's Jeff Freeman on Margie's computer. Sorry. I
Hey,
apologize.
Jeff.
I apologize. A number of things. I know at the planning meeting on Monday night, the outbuilding is not shown here, has been significantly expanded to now be 2,300 square feet. And so it's incorporating the parking spaces to the north of that building. I suspect that will have some significant changes.
Can I respond to that one real quick?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so what had happened, and that's why I'm like, it's not from a planning board perspective, it's not that significant, is that we've moved this area and we've tweaked this area. So the building now will be something more like so like the actual limits of work will not really be changing significantly. It's just that we're going to be removing those parking spaces, expanding the building, and losing those two spaces there. It's where we at. But from amount of work and impervious area within the buffer, it's pretty close. So it's not really adding, soil disturbance. It's just kind of shifting based on the fire department needs. They need an extra bay for this. The extra bay is like for vehicle maintenance and those type of things, which it will be, kind of like a significant undercut for them not to have. So they felt pretty strong that it was worth missing or losing one or two spaces if they could get that extra bay for like repairs and stuff.
All right. Well, thank you for that explanation. I understand. So that will be reflected in the new drawing when it's available.
Yes. Our plan is to resubmit that to planning and Concom digital versions tomorrow. So yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I thank you. I think that as an architect, that's actually a very significant change. So, and that obviously needs to be reflected on the elevations and perspectives, and none of which has been shown publicly yet. My other concern is that the drainage from the fire station down the west entry that leads to Westford Road and then drains down to Rockland Road, that is a major issue. And I just wondering how that is addressed when they wash the fire stations. That road, all that water comes down, is not contained on the site. It comes down that driveway, goes down go down toward Rockland Road. There's one catch basin down there. It has eroded the road, and is a major problem for entry into Rockland Road. So I understood that all water is to be contained on the site. So my question is, how is that picked up so there is no water when they emptying the tanks up there? There's no water going down that roadway onto Westford Road and to Rockland Road.
So yeah, that's a pretty good question. So under existing conditions, which is what we are doing, so part of the regulations is that, especially for a site like this that is already developed, you need to make it better than what it is. There are certain things that you can't really make enough changes given the constraints you have. Right now, we have two constraints: the existing building is to remain, and the driveway on the street is to remain. So, or the street is to remain. So that connection needs to still meet grades there. So that being said, right now, this driveway is pretty steep. This driveway under existing conditions is about 10% slope, which we are maintaining. So our goal is to meet grades like about up here. So this portion of the driveway, which is already currently kind of like draining directly out into West First Street, will remain doing that as under existing conditions. However, everything coming from your either inside of the building, they're going to be inside drains. They're going to be directed to the old water separator and then going to an oil tank. And then everything outside of the building here from the aprons will be directed to the detention systems and water quality structures before discharging to the wetland. However, the existing driveway, kind of like where this red line is, will remain doing what it's doing under existing conditions, which is shit flowing out.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. I understand that. So that red line across the top of that driveway, all water to the north of that line, where they now flush the tanks, all of that water is now going to where? How is that being?
There is a catch basin right there. I don't know if you see it.
I see it.
So that's a catch basin. So that's collecting most of this runoff. There is another catch basin here, collecting the rest, and there is more here as you go up. So then you don't see it on this plan because again, it's technically outside of the wetland stuff. But underneath this parking area, there is a subsurface system. There is a detention tank that we're going to be sending all that water. And once the water leaves the system, it's going to get into a water quality structure. There's a proprietary system to remove sediments and clean the water. And then all this water, it's going to be coming through the back here. And it will be directed into this stone apron that is going to help dissipate the speed and velocity of the water before it discharges into the wetland. Mm-hmm. And that's shown on sheet CG 101 of the plans that were submitted to the board.
I was just trying to read the elevations. Trained as a landscape architect, it makes it a little dangerous when I look at these things. And so I trying to understand how the grading from the face of that building of 1/8 of an inch a foot of it. So all of that water, when they flush the tanks, will then be redirected to go to that one catch basin. So not it's the flushing of the water coming down the road from the tanks from work at the fire station. It's not the rainwater that's an issue. So you have positive pitch now from the face of the fire station over to that catch basin. Is that correct?
Yes, and there is additional drains inside. So any washing or whatever they do inside of the station, there are additional drains inside of the building.
The dumping of the water is obviously outside of the building in that parking area. When they flush the tanks, it's that great flush of water that comes out from the tanks that's the issue.
Yeah, and I guess that's something that the board feels that there is a preference, we can definitely pass on that information to the chief to see if they can kind of accommodate any preference the board might have on how they flush their tanks.
That would be important. The last issue I had, as I understand from Board of Health last night, they are requiring that the well become a public water supply.
Yeah, so they are, my understanding is that they will want to know what the implications are if we were to make it a public water, because they're thinking in the future, will this be considered a public water? Right now, we feel pretty confident that under the proposed use and the number of people per shift and all of this, it's actually classified as a private well. So if the board wants to go that way, our next step right now is to send them an email explaining then what it means to become a public water well, even though we are not exceeding the thresholds to become a public water well. I'm not sure if all the implications are clear to them. So that's our next step, to really feel like, hey, even knowing this, you still want to trigger this to be a public water well, even though you don't have to. Or, which is going to be our suggestion, should we just put a plan in hand that the fire chief can every month track the use of the water, so we can clearly show that we are well below the threshold of a public well, and then that keeps going forever. And at the point that that threshold is exceeded, then that well will be converted to a public well, or another one will be designed for that, because designing on something that might or might not happen in the future, that has significant implications from a permitting standpoint right now, because that will become Mass DEP jurisdiction. Like a public well, it's not the Board of Health jurisdiction, it's Mass DEP. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that before we proceed that route. But yes, it was brought up by the Board of Health yesterday.
So the public water supply is not a Board of Health jurisdiction?
Nope, it's not. At that point, Mass DEP has the control over permitting a public water well.
For the record, the Board of Health required that I put in a public water supply, and which I'm doing for the last 2 years, in order to put a toilet in at Clark Farm Market. So that'll be interesting to see how this is resolved.
Yeah, it is on their purview to request that. I'm saying the permitting review and the approval of the public well goes through Mass DEP, because for that you need to create a Zone 1. Yeah.
That is correct. That's what I'm dealing with. So
yes, exactly.
We'll wait to see how this is resolved. That's interesting.
But there are pretty clear thresholds which we are not exceeding. The threshold is that the well, if a well is servicing less than 25 people on average, or less than or only serving 25 or more less than, I believe, 60 days a year. I don't remember from the top of my head, but there are pretty clear thresholds that we are below for a public well.
That's correct. Those are the thresholds.
So Megan, is this an issue that Conscom needs to consider? I guess I'm a little confused.
The well?
Yeah, the well, and whether it's public or private.
No.
I mean, I think we can only go off of what we have now. I don't know what the timeline on Mass DEP. I don't know what the timeline is.
It could be up to a year or more to get a public water well permitted with Mass DEP.
Yeah, so it sounds like we just would probably go with what's in front of us. If they have to modify the plan later, then they can come back to us if they have to move the well.
We can reconsider. Like that. Okay. All right. Mr. Freeman, you still have your hand up. You got another point?
No, I will find out how to remove that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. No, thank you very much.
No, thank you for the input. Any questions? Oh, no, Sylvia again?
Yes, again. Since you're focusing on that wetland area right where the sort of discharge cobbles area is, it's pretty close there. And my memory of that spot is that it wouldn't be out of the question for the wetland delineation to move a little bit there. because it's pretty shallow. It's almost a swale-like area there. So if the wetland delineation moves toward the outfall, that would also mean it's moving toward the septic system. Is there enough room in that area that you've got planned for the septic system so that you can move lines around a little bit if the wetland moves closer to it? Get what I mean?
Sorry,
No, I
so
don't.
sorry, I was muted. I
Oh,
was just gonna say that yes, in my experience, there's always, a possibility for wetland flags to slightly shift, but I don't think it will be if they do slightly change, I feel that we have enough buffer to tweak stuff enough. I'm not, like I said, like normally my experience, and Megan has a different experience. Even when the wetland move, it's like a couple of feet here or there. So unless something really unusual happens there, I feel that we have um, ways of making really small changes to adjust accordingly.
okay. Well, I have actually seen significant changes as a result, but hopefully this won't be one of them.
Yeah, I guess it also depends on who the wetland scientist is. I'm talking from my point of view. Like normally, our wetland scientist is pretty on the dot here, but yes, I feel like if that were to happen, we will definitely work with Megan and the board and any agency that has a say on this, on making small tweaks that everybody feels, good with.
Yeah, it's a board health issue, so, because it's got to be, the lines have to be 100 feet away.
Yes, yeah, and we show that buffer on the plans
Yeah.
that were submitted to the Board of Health. We
Okay.
show those buffers for the septic system for sure. So good point.
All right.
And
Any other comments?
I was just
Megan?
gonna mention that I think I'm gonna try to schedule a site visit next week. So any commissioners that are interested in that, just keep an eye on your email. Early next week, I'll probably send out an invite once I get the availability of the wetland scientist. And I also asked that some key features be pointed out in the field so that when we're on the site visit, we have an idea of, where the limit of work is, so that when we're in the field, you can see that in the existing conditions. So I think it'll be a worthwhile site visit just to get a good evaluation of the existing site conditions and what's going to be proposed. I always find going to the site is more helpful than looking at a site plan. You just get a better idea. So just for all the commissioners, keep an eye out on an email from me for a possible site visit next week.
Another thing to think about too is getting out the old plan and comparing the wetlands so you can see where any changes may have occurred over the past few years. It wasn't that long ago, it's expired, but it's sometimes helpful to see what's happened. It might not have changed at all.
Yep.
All right. Last chance for comments. So I'd like to get a motion to continue the public hearing to the March 26th meeting.
So moved?
Sylvia? No seconds? Oh, well.
Second,
Thank you, Naveed. All right. So we'll take a roll call vote, please. If I can get my mouse to work here. There we go. By the way, I noticed that Nick has joined us. Thank you, Nick. I don't know if you got enough information in this. So Navneet,
aye.
let's see. Melissa,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Sylvia,
Aye.
chair votes aye. And Nick, did you get enough information to being willing to vote or?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
And I'm voting
And
aye.
you? Okay. It passes unanimously, and thank you all. We will move on to the next.
Thank you.
That was a good presentation, Wesley. I was impressed.
Thank you.
All right. We're a half hour late for the annual farmers meeting. So I see it's a review of 2025 agricultural land use reports and the 2026 land use plans on town-owned agricultural parcels. Request for proposals for persons wishing to use, for agricultural purposes, the following town-owned parcels of farmland: Cranberry Bog South Lot, Foss Farm, Greeno, and Hutchins/Robbins. So, Megan, you have a comment here. Do you want to just express that now?
Yeah, so this is of course my first time going through this annual farmers meeting process, so I'll probably be deferring to Sylvia on how this process usually goes. But every year the commission asks the current agricultural license holders to submit a land report form. So this year all of the current farmers have submitted land report form for 2025 saying, what they harvested, what practices they use. And then if their license extends to 2026, they submit a land use planning form as well, which describes what they plan to do for 2026. And so that's kind of what the first bullet is the review of those reports. And then the second bullet I had for the request for proposals is for the lands where the former agricultural license has since expired. So now we have openings on those plots of lands. And so we're just taking applications from farmers who would like to use those lands for agricultural purposes. And so, yeah, that's kind of the summary I have here. I will note we only received applications for Foss, Greeno, and Hutchins and Robbins. We actually didn't receive one for the Cranberry Bog South lot. So, but I know we have some farmers here. We have Farmer Duffy here, who currently has licenses on, let's see, Bisbee and Fisk and Greeno. Oh, sorry. I don't know. I'm getting confused between all of them. Farmer Duffy's here to apply to some of the open parcels we have as well, but he also has some remaining agricultural licenses. I don't know.
So
Sylvia,
you have a list that says Bisbee, Cranberry Bog South Lot, Fisk, Foss, Greeno, and Hutchins Robbins. Is that all
yes.
for Farmer Duffy?
Well, so those are all the ones he had in 2025. Some of them are
Understood.
for 2026. Some of them he's renewing for 2026. So, sorry,
Okay.
kind of confusing.
No, makes sense.
And then I saw that we also have Miles Connors here, who is here on behalf of Grow Native. They submitted a land use report for their activities in 2025 and also a planning form for what they plan to do in 2026. So I don't know if the commission had a chance to review those. If they have any questions about the reports or the planning forms, then I think this would be a good opportunity to discuss those.
Well, I'll be happy to open it up. Are there commissioners with issues that'd like to discuss?
Well, usually I think the farmer goes through his land use report and land use planning form for each of the fields that he has. Like Mark would talk about what he did at Greeno last year, what he's planning for this coming year. And is it for another 1 year or was it for 1 to 3 years that it was supposed to be for? Megan.
Oh, yeah, that was a question. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I was gonna pull up the reports.
Well, the report that got posted were the ones for last year, for this current year. There wasn't one for the coming year, so I didn't
For
know.
which property?
Well, you can start with Greeno.
Okay, let's start with Greeno. So we have a report form and a planning form, but I'll pull up the report form first. And Mark, if you just want to talk through, maybe that would be helpful. And I'll just share my screen.
Yeah, sure. So at Greeno, the town's property is the two small fields at Greeno. Usually they start out the season. The first field tends to be quite wet. Of course, they don't get a lot of sunlight. They're narrow with tall trees next to them. So Typically, we plant that last. In the past, we have not hauled manure down there. I am talking to my consultants who are really encouraging me to start taking manure down there to help the yield. Be it's not just a distance thing. It's just, the big field is owned by the neighbors, and I want to make sure everybody's fine with that. So I have not actually asked them. So the fields are in corn.
I just want to check the fire.
If we have a good summer and it rains, the corn does good once it gets established. If we have a dry year, then it's quite a challenge to have a good crop there because of the trees and the backfield. What I would call the backfield is extremely sandy, and even the west side of the first field can be sandy. But I do very much appreciate. I should start out. I very much appreciate using the town's land. It's key to being able to farm. All this feed is to feed my cows. And it is critical. As far as what we're doing there, we have switched. There's no restricted pesticide use. These are all general. They're approved for use in Zone 2, which of course they're not in Zone 2, but they are approved for use. And so I have really worked with my advisors to try and use the safest possible conventional pesticides in order to make sure that hopefully I can gain the respect of some people who have been very challenging over the years. I would like to have longer term leases or agreements, whatever we want to call them. It's an enormous challenge only having 1 year agreements, and of course I have longer agreements on the hay fields, which I very much appreciate. But it affects all sorts of things. The soil tests are there. You can see as you look at all the different fields, it varies somewhat, but the basic how we determine how much fertilizer we put on is that depending on if we're putting manure on and what is needed, we use IPM, integrated pest management. If the crop is growing well, then we want to make sure it gets fed appropriate so that it has a good yield. And if the crop is not going well, then we do back off typically nitrogen later in the season because we don't want to waste it. So the soil tests are UMass. They just spent a bunch of money redoing their facility, and so and you will see the tests vary. Okay. And certainly we are after high yields because we are limited on the amount of land we have, and the cows want basically the best possible quality. So the reality is if the crop can use it, then we want to fertilize appropriately to get a good crop.
Mark, can you scroll down a little bit on that soil test? I have a question about that I saw on all of the soil tests. Oh, it was Megan that's got the soil test.
Sorry, one
Yeah,
second.
sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, my
Yeah.
sharing is being annoying. I'll pull it up right now. Okay.
It's the same question I have for all the fields with soil tests.
Okay.
You want me to
Okay,
scroll down?
So first of all, note before you go too far, go up a little bit. So you see the box, bottom one, lower left, left hand, you got lead, 0.9, and the optimum range would be less than 22, okay? So now
Yes.
scroll down to the notes. And it says the lead level in the soil is less than 22 parts per million, which falls below the listed optimum level. How can 0.9, which is less than 22 parts per million, be bad?
Oh, well, So,
And it says that on every single one of the reports.
okay, so my understanding, and I've UMass is really trying to and has spent money. The legislature gave money to upgrade their lab and the work they're doing. We typically in the past have not used UMass. We've used other labs. So, which is who our advisors are using. So to me, that's really a question for the UMass lab. Um, we certainly don't intend to add lead. And so,
But
so it's an interesting comment, Sylvia. And as always, Sylvia, you're right on top of it. And that is a good question for the lab.
it doesn't seem, it's in every single report.
Okay.
And at no point do you have a lead level greater than 1.
Yeah.
Which has to be good.
No,
But don't you think the 0.9 is 0.9 parts per million, which is a lot less than 22 parts per million?
Right, but then it says it's not optimal. Right here.
Well, that's true. We saw that before. But being less sounds more optimal than being average
Absolutely.
or more.
And the other thing is, I would have expected the lead levels to rise on fields that are coastal roads because of the former amount of lead in gasoline, but that wasn't the case. So anyway, it's just, I thought he might know. So
no, I do not know.
okay. My other question is, this is for corn.
Yeah.
And I believe was the ad in the paper for up to 3 years license agreement? Was that the case?
Yes, I wasn't. It was hard because it was the transition
Correct. Yeah.
between LSC and ComScom.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I really wasn't sure what the limits would be.
Right.
So I just put a range.
So a question that I have is, this is for corn. I have been aware that in the past on Mark's Fields, it's usually corn, but it isn't always corn. Sometimes it's hay. And I believe there was a while when he was even raising sorghum. So does this mean he can't raise hay or sorghum?
Are you asking me?
No.
Okay. I was like,
No.
Okay.
I was sort of pointing it out to the commission that it hasn't necessarily always been corn. I'm not sure it's often, but there are at times of others. Sometimes farmers like to rotate their crops. So maybe it's a question for Mark.
Yeah, so Sylvia, my cover crop this year is triticale, which is actually wheat. Okay.
Mhm.
Although I have some winter rye too. So I am I'm trying to do the right thing. But of course, as I drive around and watch the Canadian geese eating what I'm trying to raise, okay, and unfortunately, they're the non-migratory Canadian geese, which
Sorry.
which then stick around to eat the corn plants as they emerge. And unfortunately, here at the state park, they stick around and go swimming in the pond where people come to visit us. And so I have made some changes, but um uh there's some I have some basic goals, okay? So I use a nutritionist. Feeding cows is my number one cost. He was just here yesterday. Corn to me is energy. Grass is protein. I need both of them. I feed byproducts. Feeding cows is quite a complex. So obviously my nutritionist is a dairy nutritionist. So we are trying to raise a proper diet for the animals. And so we have tried different things. Sorghum, we tried it because of how dry some of the soils were, and wasn't supposed to need much rainfall. But the reality is, um, we select drought tolerant corn intentionally, given the land that we farm. And so we've had more success with drought tolerant corn than switching to sorghum. And on cover crops, we've tried all sorts of different things. I've actually talked to the seed companies. Is there something that Canadian geese will not eat? And as of right now, they tell me no, they do not have anything that will not attract the Canadian geese in the winter. In the wintertime.
Okay, I guess my question to the commission was, although this is a corn license, would it bother any of them if you happen to choose one year, for example, to raise hay?
Is there
Wouldn't bother me.
a matter?
Hmm.
Go ahead, Melissa.
No, it wouldn't bother me. I mean, I don't see raising hay as controversial.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, and I think it'd be good to give it some flexibility here, unless there's some reason that anyone can think of why that would be a problem. But I don't see it.
Yeah, it's a question about how the permit is written, right?
Yeah, it was based on
The,
last
the
year.
license.
Yeah, and
Yeah, make sure the license would accommodate that and also accommodate the related cover crops, which are a best practice.
yeah.
So in the future, should the form say crops planned rather than crop planned? Would that solve that?
Probably, yeah.
And could this one be just amended or hand drawn in?
It can, I mean, it can be noted in the license if you choose to issue the license, and then I can update the template form for next year.
So it would seem to me you want to put the license would have the worst case scenario. If that's corn, corn. If it's hay, it's hay. And say if optional, possibilities would include A, B, and C.
I guess what's the reason for requiring a separate form for each crop? Is that because maybe different crops require different management, different pest control? So you really do need a separate form?
I don't believe there has been a separate form in the past. It was agricultural, and if the farmer chose grass, hay, it was for hay. If it was for corn, it was corn, grew corn. He listed on it what they were planning to do for the next year, what they did the last year, but I don't remember in the past that it was a specific requirement, a form that required a specific crop. It was some change from last year.
I would very much appreciate being able to change. I don't typically change a lot, given there's all sorts of other factors about why I raise one feed in one field and not oftentimes having a lot to do with rocks and people and the temptation to think that my hay fields are also public play fields and leaving things behind, unfortunately. Okay. So all those things, but I would appreciate that, and I would very much appreciate having 3-year agreements. It's extremely challenging, and we do not normally soil test every single year. That's an additional cost. And one of the things in my mind, in my decision making, is I do have my corn custom harvested. It's extremely expensive, and we are looking at ways to potentially have more bigger fields, more viable fields. As we discussed, they went down to Greeno. There wasn't a lot of corn there this year. They went down there with 4 trucks. I paid for all 4 of them to sit, and all 4 of them didn't get filled. And then of course the chopper and everything. And so all that helps me out. I appreciate the flexibility.
So I guess the question for before us is I don't think we want to take any action right now. We're looking for inputs. And Mark, I really appreciate what you put in there. And I agree with you that a 3-year term certainly makes sense. And the question is, how can we provide you with additional flexibility if you wanted to swap in hay for corn silage or whatever in the future? Is that a big change, or do we get an example form for each one and say, oh, that well, now we know this will be less of that and more of this? I'm not a farmer except for my
Okay.
little
Yeah.
plot in the back.
Well, my ones for hay fields are much simpler. You know, we so I would hope the transition back and forth would be acceptable. Um, and because I have a whole bunch of rocky fields that I really can't grow corn on, the reality is between the state park here and the town's land is the majority of my corn,
Understood.
you know.
He has 5-year agreements for Fisk Meadow, which is across from the transfer station, and for Bisbee Fields. The rest of them are all are corn. I think what I was trying to bring up is I have known in the past for some flexibility. And so I was wondering if the commission had a problem with that. It didn't seem to have a problem in the past.
If it's a 3-year or whatever 5-year permit, is he still required to submit an annual report?
Oh, yes, every year. Yeah.
So that would be the opportunity to say, I think maybe I'm going to do something different the next year.
Yeah. Let's say next year he decides, he comes next February, he says, well, I think I've decided that Greeno should be hay. Yeah, that would be on the plan.
I'd love to have that be the plan this year because, as I already said, it's my most challenging field from a moisture level of getting it established. And then so, I hope it rains during the summertime, but we like to have the spring a little drier so we can get established. But if I run into issues trying to establish it in the springtime because of how wet the first field is it would be good to have the option of seeding it down.
I would think as part of that, you wouldn't have flexibility on the pesticides that are listed, though. Is there a reason you might have to change or add a new pesticide to the list?
Well, we typically do not use herbicides on hay fields, except if we have an issue with a weed that we just can't get rid of. And we're starting to get a couple of them, okay? But on the hay fields, we would like to harvest every hay field 4 times, and oftentimes we don't make a 4th cutting because it just doesn't grow as it dries out. But what we find for the most part, except for certain weeds, and of course, I know that people on the Conservation Commission understand the challenges with weeds, is we are encountering weeds and having discussions on hay fields that we cannot get rid of because they are thriving, I guess I would say, even though we cut it 4 times a year. But currently we do not.
So
So I guess the question is, what do we expect the commission to provide in the way of feedback? And I don't know that we have a consistent story yet.
well, each field would be different. This one happens to be Greeno.
I understand that.
And so,
But, I think we're looking for a template where you could actually have options in there. In addition to corn silage, we may want to include hay or bananas or something like that. Well, maybe not bananas.
Um,
So is this something that we need to put together a recommendation for modifications to the Carlisle agricultural land use form?
you could just have him write in if he wants to make
Yeah,
a change.
it can just be part of the application where it specifies that, you know, here's where there's going to be some flexibility. This is what I plan to do this year, and we can always revisit this if we give a 3 or 5 year permit on an annual basis. If there's any changes that are going to be made that we are not in favor of, we can always address that at that time. That, you know, changes outside of the flexibility that we've given.
So do we need an updated form to say, here's my plan, and here are the options should that not work out?
Well, he provided a plan for next year.
Mm-hmm.
And in the discussion about the plan, it came up that it was a possibility that he might rather plant hay. So you make an amendment to the plan in the meeting, I guess. Okay.
I'm comfortable with that if the commission, oh, sorry, Megan, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, can it just be noted in the license agreement?
Yes.
I mean, you're all when
Exactly.
Yeah.
when the whole point of the farmers meeting and the RFP is to issue a license agreement.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
if
So-
y'all want to issue the license agreement, then, you know, with whatever comments you're giving me tonight, I can incorporate into the license
Yeah.
agreement. So for instance, the licensee desires to use a portion of land to, you know, hay and corn, you know, I can fill it in
Hay or
appropriately
corn, yeah.
Yeah.
as needed.
with
Yeah.
associated cover crops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sylvia, can I ask historically, I think I know the answer to this question, but I just wanted to put it out there. So Farmer Duffy has 5-year permits on certain parcels. And because of that changeover, and we won't revisit all the details of it, there's 1 year, but historically, there's been also 3-year permits on some of these parcels. Why the 3 versus the 5? Was there some other rationale
Yeah.
that I'm missing?
There's never been a 5 until this past year. It was always 3 years, and I had it organized so that all the fields came due the same year for renewal. And it was efficient. It was one legal notice, and one package of materials went out to all the farmers. It worked because when I started, it was all over the place because we got the fields at different times, and I worked in different years. So I worked to get them all on the same schedule. And then last year, the land stewards decided that if it was going to be a hay field, that it could be 5 years, and the corn would be 1. And so here we are. But it's always been 3. And I remember over the years in the past asking the commission if were they at all interested in increasing the license to 5 years for the agricultural license agreements, and the answer was always no. They wanted to keep it at 3, and I never knew why.
So I love efficiency and I love the idea of getting everything back onto one track, but I have right now mental math after being on call right now is going to be really hard for me. So I don't know if I will be able to think through what we could do to do this to get back on that track, but I'm not opposed to a 3-year permit. And if somebody has any thoughts about a 5-year, I would love to hear that thought, but I'm 3 years, especially because I understand the cost of retesting the soil annually is just somewhat unnecessary. I'm eager to hear other commissioners' thoughts.
I like the idea of all the fields coming due for licensing at the same time too, and one notice and so forth.
It is easier for Megan too.
Can I
All of them
just
at the same
note,
time. She doesn't have to think, well, this year's that field and next year's the other field. So
yeah, I'm definitely on board with that, and I'm sure farmers are too, and commissioners. But so for tonight, the way it was advertised was 1 to 3, so I don't think we can give more than that. Unfortunately, if I had the foresight, or if maybe we thought about this a little more before, we posted the legal ad, I would have probably recommended a 4-year license agreement so it would match up right. But because it was only advertised at a max of 3 years, I think like legally we have to make that the max. But I do agree that getting them all on the same track in the future will be ideal. So I can try to brainstorm like what the easiest way to make that happen will be later.
Can we issue a 3-year, and then on other properties, I'm using Farmer Duffy as an example, another property that is not up for renewal, can it be prematurely renewed to get onto the same cycle, or no?
Why not?
I wouldn't do that.
Okay, you wouldn't do that. Okay.
No.
Why not, Sylvia?
Then you're sending it out to like 7 or 8 years because it's only 1 year in.
No. I mean, like for example, I mean, again, mental math right now is going to be very hard, but let's say one parcel is up for renewal this year, another one is up for renewal in 2 years, right? But he comes in and he says, okay, I'm going to renew this parcel for 3 years, so I'm 4 years out, but then the next parcel he renews for 2 years to get onto the same cycle. I know that's, if that makes any sense.
So I think you're overthinking.
Yeah,
There's more
okay.
than one. There's more than
Okay.
one 5-year one. There's the Woodward, there's Fox Hill, and Bisbee, and Fisk Meadow. So those are all 5-year, but they're 1 year in, so there's only 4 more left. And a workaround with that is to work on trying to see about getting those back on a 3-year at the end of this 3-year. And there's a way of doing it, which I did before, and we can go into that some other time.
Okay, so is your recommendation to then do a 3-year today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then Megan and Sylvia can work out the math for the subsequent.
Good.
Yeah, we'll worry about that later.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should have these meetings in the morning when people aren't so tired. Forget it. Never mind. I didn't say that.
So anyway, where are we? We're at Greeno still.
So then do I make a motion? I make a motion that we issue a 3-year permit with the flexibility already noted between corn and hay, possible.
With the
crop
objectives of
and-
aligning things, yes.
Yeah, and with adjustable cover crop according to the needs of the parcel.
So when's 3 years up? This is the 26th, 27th, the 28th? 2028?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'd be, it really should be November 1st, 2028.
Why November?
Because if you hay, maybe you want to hay after October 15th? I don't know. Flexibility again.
Yeah, it's a good question for Farmer Duffy.
Yeah. Mark?
Well, I'm a fan of flexibility, but I don't want to make people. I appreciate all the progress you're making. I don't want to throw a wrench in that. Say,
okay, October 15th.
Don't they typically expire in November? Isn't that the?
Yeah, they
that's
have
what
in
I
the past.
noticed.
I don't know what the October 15th is on this one for.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually been on November 1st.
So after the harvesting is done.
Yeah.
I just have a question, Megan. If you know, if you go up towards the top, the license permits way up to the top of the document. You know, the license desires letter C, land to blank, and then grow in the last. You know, so it'll list all of the crops, the potential crops that are listed by the applicant.
Yes.
And then, but there's nowhere that says restrictions or it limits them to the pesticides that are listed on the application. There's no like restriction. There's permitted use, but shouldn't.
There is something about herbicides and pesticides in this Exhibit A, but it's more about complying with EPA.
So shouldn't
Yeah.
what's on the application be listed in the license?
Yeah, and you know, you can add another bullet here, or I can add anything the commission wants to it.
And I see in number 3, it says the land stewardship chairperson, and we think you're talking about the Conservation Commission in this case. So there needs to be some editing there. Yeah. And then there's October 15th down here.
There's also
on
Land
number 7.
Stewardship Committee on number 5, so maybe a word search on
Yeah.
Land Stewardship Committee. So will you prepare this and we vote on it at our next meeting? Is that the idea?
Oh.
Maybe if you're more comfortable with that, it does seem like
But if we've outlined the edits and Megan, we trust Megan to execute those edits just
Right.
because this is the farmer meeting to just close it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to see if we can make
Yeah,
the
we
edits.
can authorize her to make these edits.
Yeah.
Dan, does number 3 cover your concern about restrictions? Or wait a minute, not number 3. I was looking at 3 right after the first 3.
How about
The
number
top.
4?
You mean number 4?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
I just think if the application lists specific pesticides and herbicides, it should be limited. The license should be limited to those.
Right. What if we revise the last sentence to say these must be recorded on the land use forms clearly? So then it's clear that the pesticides and herbicides that are used must be. Is the land use form made part of the contract?
Well, it's the land use, what happened last year, and then there's the land use plan is for next year.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's the
so
land use plan.
I can attach the land use plan to this form so that it
Right.
outlines what herbicides, pesticides are going
Right.
to be used, if any.
It's all the details, and that way it's made part of the contract. And
And I can mention that will be attached and reference it in here.
Okay.
I should say the chemicals don't change, but those are the brands that I put in because of course it's tied in with things like the concentration, but it is not. There are different manufacturers, and it sometimes happens that they will put a different name, but it'll be the same chemical formulation. Just so you understand, I'm not interested in using other stuff, but that may occur, especially as one company sells to another one, and they put a different, but we would use the same chemical.
So does it make sense not to mention the brand name, but the chemical and dosage instead?
I'm fine with doing it that way as long as you understand that, and because there will be a requirement, the label only allows you to use so much. So if somebody
Right.
else makes it, puts a different name on it, and cuts the concentration in half, then it doubles the amount or goes the other way or something. That's all required under the label. And so if saying that I have to follow the label covers the fact that it may be a different name.
So maybe it should say, or equivalent formulations.
Consistent with what's reported on the land use planning form?
Yeah.
Sorry. What change did you just say you wanted me to make?
Consistent with what is stated on the land use planning form.
Equivalent formulations consistent with.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Sorry, are you on bullet 4?
No, yeah.
Okay. I'm just not sure what part you want me to add, sorry. Like, if you can point me to the sentence, then I can add. I just missed it.
I don't think it's the part where you're going to be adding reference to the actual land use plan in this in the cover sheet or cover I'm blanking on the name of the permit application
The
itself.
license?
The license, yes.
Yeah.
So you're going to reference the land use plan, right, as you were saying,
Right.
for the chemicals, but to put a sentence there that also states or equivalent formulations.
Yeah.
Formulations.
Consistent with the land use planning form.
Exactly. Chemicals to be used as outlined in the land use permit plan, or Sylvia said it better. Yeah. Does that make sense, Megan?
Plan. Oh, is it like planning form? Oh, okay. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the land use planning form is for this coming year, this
Okay.
summer, this growing season.
All right. Or you could say authorized pesticides and herbicides, open parenthesis, or equivalent formulations.
Okay.
Are
Are
limited.
referenced in the land use
described,
planning form?
are described on the attached land use. Yeah.
Okay, so then I can get rid of this.
Yeah. And then you don't need the last sentence.
Well, I was just gonna say they should be recorded on the land use report forms for the following years.
Right.
Okay.
I can't think of the wording right now, but I know what I'm trying to say. I don't know if everyone else feels that way right now, but my brain
Yeah.
isn't working very well.
I think I trust you to
Yeah.
fix it up as needed.
Megan, I can come
Okay.
in and take a look at it too, if you'd like. Perfectly happy to.
Okay.
Land use report forms for future years or something like that.
Years to come.
Yeah, I'll just do it. I can touch up
Yeah,
the
yeah.
language later if needed, but
You can
the
be the
general,
sleuth.
the gist is there. Okay.
In case you're interested, the land use report form and the land use planning form were forms that I put together with Conservation Commission member John Lee years ago. That we've been using them since.
All right. So I think what we're going to do is give Megan a chance to adapt the current forms. And do we need a motion to represent at the next meeting?
No, I thought we decided that because we trust that Megan can make these clarification edits, that we would vote today to issue the 3-year permit to Farmer Duffy on Greeno property with the edits as discussed.
And work to synchronize additional
I think that's
leases
the
to be in a 3-year period, right?
Yeah, and that's the work to be done with Sylvia's help and Megan's help to work on that. But I don't think that needs to be part of this motion.
And just one correction, it would be license rather than permit, right?
Yes.
Sorry, I keep
License.
saying, I keep
Right.
interchanging it, but yes, license.
Yeah.
All right, so can I get a motion to rely upon Megan to put together?
I thought that's what I just did.
Well, I know.
I motioned it, so.
Right.
Okay.
I'll second.
Navneet, thank you. And Melissa. We'll take a roll call vote. Melissa,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Sylvia,
Aye.
Navneet.
Aye.
Is he still here?
Nick.
Nick.
Did he just? Aye, okay. And the chair votes aye, the motion passes.
All right, shall we move on to Foss Farm?
Okay, so Foss Farm, obviously it's great to have fields with no rocks. And I'm totally comfortable working with the gardeners and preparing their plots. And if we have good rainfall, Foss Farm can raise a good crop. But as everybody who's had a garden down there realizes, it does dry out without adequate moisture. We have been hauling manure down there. It's quite a long drive, but nevertheless, it makes an enormous difference raising a crop. And so we would like to continue to raise corn there, and it's the appropriate field. I know in past years, I've actually talked to Sylvia about wouldn't it be great to be able to irrigate like the gardeners. I guess we can call it irrigation since they do have pumps down there. But it is subject to weather greatly. But I appreciate it. They're great fields to operate. So
Is this is this the planning? Yeah, it's the planning for. Okay, it's good, the right year. So do you want to do just corn, or do you want the flexibility like Greeno?
no, I really want to continue corn down there based on my cow's diet and the fact and the quality of land. Okay, so I should just briefly for your own personal, when you get out to Midwest and the farms are 1,000 acres and there's no trees and people talk about the soil blowing away in the Dust Bowl and stuff like that. And of course, we do not have those conditions in Carlisle. And then, of course, in order to keep the organic matter up and the fact that we do haul cow manure down there and stuff, it's why we're able to raise corn year after year, where in some areas they really want to in order to rotate and improve the soil structure. So that is not an issue for us.
Okay. So I guess the only question I have is, what did the report mean by banding phosphorus?
Okay, so phosphorus is, so if you look at what I'm applying for fertilizer, phosphorus is the 0 number in the middle. Okay. And so we are very careful about making sure we keep phosphorus out of the water. as far as ponds and rivers and stuff because it does cause algae blooms. And so, but there are some cases where the soil test says we really need to put in phosphorus. And what they want to do is basically put it in an area where it is quickly and efficiently used by the plant so in a band instead of broadcast. Broadcast would be where it goes everywhere on the field. A band is where it is. So we do put corn starter 2 inches to the side and 2 inches below the corn seed. And so that would be an example of banding if we needed phosphorus. But as you can see, phosphorus on this soil test is optimum. So.
Okay, thank you.
So Megan, are we expected to run through each property and try to
Yes.
make a
Yes.
decision right now?
Yes,
Yes.
each property is gonna warrant a separate agricultural license, which will warrant a separate vote.
So, and this
And
is an application, I'm sorry, I'm on my phone, my laptop died. I don't have, I can't read it very well. This for 3 years as well.
That's up to Mark, but I would assume he'd want 3 years. You're muted.
Sorry, I would very much like 3 years. Thank you. I mean, I have been there, I do believe 37 or 38 years.
So any other discussion? Anybody have any thoughts about it? Because I'm so then I move to, if not, move to issue a land use license, not permit, for 3 years for Foss Farm to Farmer Duffy as outlined in the application and land use plan.
I second.
Thank you. So we'll take a roll call vote. I agree with that. So Navneet,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Dan,
I
Sylvia,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The motion passes. Thank you.
So if you want me to keep going in the interest of moving along?
Please.
Okay. So then I just want to briefly say, so Cranberry Bog South is actually the former gravel pit. And I kind of did that as a favor so that the brush didn't grow. I know there's all sorts of talk and I follow what's going on with the bog house and the mosquito and stuff. It's not really a viable field. It was kind of a favor to do it. The reality is the guy can't really chop it and the trucks can't really turn around and stuff. So my expectation is there may be a need for it if they do something in the house. And so I would prefer not to raise. I get less than 1 truckload of corn out of the gravel pit. Okay. And if that's acceptable, I mean, if you really want me to do it, I can do it. But I don't feel I desperately need land, but I'd like to give up using the gravel pit, which is Cranberry Bog South.
Any sense in putting it out for hay?
Well, I will tell you what it is the floor of it is the tailings from screening sand.
Yeah, okay.
And so there's not really too much topsoil. So the issue is when you mow it and everything, basically you're mowing tailings, rocks and stuff. And the machine does not like that mows hay. And the fact of the matter is grass really doesn't. Corn's an amazing plant. It'll grow through those. But it's an old gravel pit.
Right. The yield is very poor.
Yeah.
So does that mean you'd like to withdraw your use of this particular parcel?
I do believe I did not ask to use it, correct?
Yes,
this is-
correct. You just
this-
reported on 2025's use, but you didn't submit a planning form for 2026.
Okay.
So I don't believe any vote needs to be taken because I'm not interested. Okay, so then on Huckins Robbins, okay. There is grass there. That is an example of where I do have hay in it. It's mostly in corn. Um, the plan is to use it as in the past and probably keep the hay where the hay is. Um, Steve Spang, who lives there and has a garden next door, and I realize people like to see hay too, and as they drive by. And so to me, that's all part of why we do that. And it grows a good crop. It is typically a little moister than Farm. Although back in the days of vegetables, they used to irrigate it prior to my time in Carlisle.
Mhm.
But so management's the same on both sides. Thank you.
As of yesterday, there was surface water there.
Correct.
No, not
It's like my own little pond out there.
Yeah.
Just make sure you do some good this perimeter mowing or weed cutting and stuff along the edges.
Yeah, so we did do that. I mean, the land stewards were actually not supportive of that practice. So I'm fine doing it. Okay.
So we got a
did-
complaint.
Okay, and I did do it, but
Good. Good.
okay. I appreciate that.
Hard to serve two masters when they're in both they're different.
So do we need to make a motion about the Hutchins Robbins?
So I move to issue, I'm assuming also a 3-year request, a 3-year permit for farmer, 3-year license, I will get it right. 3-year license to use Hutchins and Robbins, Robbins fields for corn. According to the application as submitted.
There's a hay in one section.
Oh, sorry, and hay in one, that's right, hay in
Yeah.
one section and mowing of edges.
Second.
Thank you. Melissa? So we will take the usual. Sylvia,
Aye.
Dan,
All right.
Melissa,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Navneet,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, the motion passes.
And for those that may not know it, Hutchins and Robbins Field were purchased partially from the state, and they are under an agricultural preservation restriction.
So the other fields are all hay fields, not so there's reports and soil tests on them. I've already described my management philosophy. We try to cut early and often, improves quality, improves yield, and we fertilize according to the needs of the crop. We're working to see if we can get a grant to get a very accurate fertilizer spreader, okay? Because I use custom spreading and other people's machines, okay, that are owned by the company that I buy fertilizer from, and we are trying to upgrade. So you sometimes see that there are different colors in the field. So even though they have GPS and everything else like that in their machine, it's all based on calibrating it correctly and how bumpy it is depending on how big a rush you're in and stuff like that. So the reality is we're always trying to do a better job. So that's and I very much appreciate the hayfields. And then of course, we do farm in 4 different towns, and so I do appreciate and we go around basically in a circle doing the hayfields and then come back. And if it's growing, we'll be back in pretty short period of time, and we like to fertilize between each cutting if it's growing. So
Well, Mark, we appreciate your approach and your, I don't know how to describe it, persistence maybe to try to get it right.
thank you.
And
Thank you very
yeah,
much.
I think you do a good job.
Thank you.
So these are for the hay fields. Is there a motion that we need to take here to Megan?
Nope, he's just reporting on last year's work and also reporting on what he's planning to do in 2026. So unless you have any questions, there's no real action you need to take.
Okay. Then I guess we get to move on unless anybody in the public like to make a comment?
So, yeah, we do. We can move on from, I guess, all of Mark's fields, but we do still have a representative here on behalf of Grow Native for Woodward. Just a
Oh,
heads
you're
up.
right. Sorry.
And how about Fox Hill?
We did get a report in planning form, but I don't know if I
Margie
see.
might not know. I mean, might be. I mean, certainly do Woodward first. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you,
you.
Mark.
So is Andrew
Um,
Rogers here, do we think, or
No, but
let's start with oh, can you see my screen?
what, Miles Connors?
Yes.
Grow New England? Grow Native, rather?
Yes. Can you see my screen right now? Okay,
Yes.
great. So this is the report form from Woodward. I don't think they did too much work. Miles, are you available to speak to the work done this past year?
Yes, I am. Good evening, members of the Conservation Committee. How are you all? Thank you for staying tuned here. I am representing Grow Native Massachusetts at Woodward Meadow. We'd originally started this conversation with the Landscape Stewardship Committee and started a commitment with them over a 5-year program to begin managing invasive plant species and consider native planting on site, and also volunteer and educational opportunities. Since I don't know if the term is correct, but dismantled, I'm excited to speak to you all tonight about some of our vision for the property. And I'm not really sure if one of the questions I have for the committee is if it necessarily fits within the agricultural agreement, because we're not talking about agricultural uses in terms of farming practices, but rather farming native plant species. So I don't know what would be most useful for you is if I could maybe just kind of describe a little bit of the site.
Before you do that, can I just make a preface, if you don't mind?
Sure.
So I just wanted the commission to know because they asked me to take this action. So I was able to talk to Heather, who is the executive director of Grow Native. Last week we had a great phone call and I got to touch base with her. And she was very willing to meet with the commission and have some open discussions about, the current status of the agricultural license and some correspondence that we received from CCF in the past. And so I just wanted to bring that up so you all know that I'm hoping that at the next meeting, maybe the 26th, we can have her here and we can have an open discussion about some of the other things going on with the property and the license. Just because I'm not sure if tonight is the appropriate time to go through all of that, especially without her here. I know Miles is here and he did some significant work on the land management plan for the property. So I think that's why it's important that he's here to represent what their plans are for 2026. But I just didn't want to get too into the weeds, no pun intended, about everything that's going on in the property as we start off the conversation.
No pun intended. Keep
I
going.
know,
Sorry.
I don't know what happened. It's funny.
Megan, can I share?
Yes. If you request permission, I can grant it to you. So if you just go to share.
I don't see the request.
Yeah, if you just hit the share button.
The green arrow down the bottom.
I do see the share button. I hit it and there's nothing coming up there.
Did you not pay your bill?
So yeah, that's too bad.
Here, I just for a very brief moment made you
In control.
your co-host. Okay, so why don't you try now?
I don't see anything.
You see that at all?
No, I don't see.
It's the first time I've ever had issues with sharing.
Sorry about that. Is there
No,
something that I could share for you?
I guess, do you have a copy of the land management plan?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
I was going to share copies of the actual Woodward Meadow as well. I did have an old Stamsky and McNary site plan. I'm sure you're all familiar with Stamsky and McNary's work. It does date back to 2015, but it does show a wetland setback in the lower, what I would call the lower half of the meadow itself. There is a vernal pool along that forested edge. There's also existing, I mean, for the past several years, I'm sure you're aware that it's been annually mowed and also grazed. There is public access around the site as well. Within the meadow, there's also several different species of invasive plants, including black swallowwort, multiflora rose, bittersweet, buckthorn, other species. Anyone who's been down Maple Street and around that 90-degree corner there, as you come out to, excuse the tourists, but the 225, I forget the name of that road there. You've noticed the bramble of invasives along the edge of that meadow. So the idea in particular is not to worry so much along that forested edge, but just the interior of the meadow, and ultimately managing out invasive plant species that have been cut for several years. That would be a combination of cutting, hand pulling, and also identification and spot herbicide application using a triclopyr-based herbicide, which is Garlon 3A is the trade name. So this document here that we put together shows some of the invasive plant species that were taken last fall when we did an inventory. As you can see, bittersweet, purple loosestrife, common privet, buckthorn, multiflora rose, and black swallowwort is prevalent. There's other aggressive plant species notable like mugwort and chicory, thistle, Queen Anne's lace, and other, black walnut that's starting to come into the field. We have Carolina horse nettle, which every farmer hates to see come into pasture meadows. And then, aggressive species that are actually just kind of pushing into the meadow from around that perimeter woodland edge. So this image right here shows a great deal of bittersweet that's climbing up native tree species and starting to pop up in the meadow itself. Megan, if you could move on to the next page. So here are just some images of those particular species. The thistle, vetch, walnut, nettle, as well as a patch of mugwort. And again, these are some of the species we're looking to manage out. I just start speaking about methods like hand removal and also cutting. Although there's a chainsaw there in the meadow itself, we'd be looking at more of a like a weed whacker or string trimmer to remove. And then getting a little bit more into the chemical treatments. So anything that's over an inch or so and above can receive a cut and dab herbicide application. So the blue is a marking dye that you see on the base of this buckthorn stump. So we'd use a buckthorn blaster to cut and dab. But predominantly in these open areas, it has, like I mentioned, it's been mown for years. So it's most easiest to go through, identify those invasive plant species, and do a spot foliar herbicide application. We are all licensed herbicide applicators. We'll complete all treatments. And it's just some other notes along like bittersweet that's starting to climb up along the edge of the old agricultural fence. So we're looking to cut and push that back along the fence. And anyone who doesn't recognize black swallowwort certainly should in some of these conservation and meadowlands. It is a prevalent herbaceous plant species that can also be managed with a Garlon treatment. And then, the document also just goes into a lot of the native species that are there. Predominantly, it's like a cool season grass meadow, I think historically used for hay and also grazing. But as it's started to mature into more wildflowers and also woody plant species, you start to get these stands of things like milkweed, the biennial primrose that you see the seed head of, and also Joe Pye weed in the lower left. This is along that lower edge. So again, just looking at native species, I think it's worth noting that you have a lot of kind of wetland indicators, not necessarily obligate plant species, but more of the common species that you'd see like speckled alder and sensitive fern and other goldenrods and so forth as you move out into the meadow. So, and that concludes like the invasive plant management part throughout that open meadow space. And then our proposal, we have a grant that's actually, we haven't heard back from the state yet for the biodiversity grant to do pollinator patches. So the idea would be is that we would remove patches of in total around 5,000 square feet. So thought is that we would do along the edges of the pathway 5 individual patches of 1,000 square feet, removing the existing sod, seeding, native pollinator seed mix, and then managing those areas into native plant species. So this just indicates some of those methods that we would use. We're also proposing installation of native wildflower plugs in those areas. And a lot of this work is also based around like education and volunteering as well through Grow Native. So there would be groups that would go out. We'd welcome people from the town of Carlisle as well to partake in the education around this work. This is just showing, some of our custom seed mixes that we use for our restoration work. Prepping these areas is critical to the success of, having that seed to soil contact in order to get these species to germinate. And then the document, again, for more educational purposes, starts to get into more specific plant species for particular pollinators. There's also a timeline towards the end of the document as well. But with that, I welcome really any feedback or questions that the commission may have around this work at Woodward. And
And Miles,
I'm usually more enthusiastic about it at this hour. I appreciate you guys hanging in there with me.
Miles, I just wanted to point out and kind of ask as well. This timeline is based on the idea of receiving the grant from the state, right? Because they said you would get the money in whatever March and have to spend it by June, correct?
That is absolutely correct, Megan. Yes.
Okay.
So
Just
that
to-
timeline would actually be extended like through this first growing season and even into subsequent seasons.
Mhm. Okay.
Do we have an idea when the grant might actually appear?
We were hoping to hear back by the end of February, early March. So the grants have not been awarded yet. As a group, we do go after, other grant opportunities as well. So if this one does not come through, we have other ideas in mind for financial contributions to it with approval.
Miles, this is Melissa. I'm sorry I'm not on video because I'm out of town on mobile. But a question for you. When you think about, a sort of a potential long-term wish to move away from the annual grazable foxtail grasses to a wildlife meadow potentially someday, my understanding is restoration efforts like that are either very intensive over a couple of years and then subsequent growing seasons, or it might take a whole lot longer. Can you speak a little bit to that notion? Because and I just came back from the MACC conference and went to a wildflower restoration presentation, wildflower meadow restoration presentation, and just it seems like I'm just kind of wondering, what the impact would be from your approach over, years. Sorry if that's a blurry question.
Yeah, no, I mean, you raise a good point though, Melissa. Like, absolutely, the establishment of wildflower meadows takes several seasons. So it typically, the first season that you're establishing, especially from seed, the first growing season tends to accumulate a lot of annual weed species that are common, everything from crabgrass, ragweeds, smart weeds, and et cetera. So there are mowing regimes associated with allowing that seed to germinate, get light, and establish. In the second growing season, you typically have a lot of those early successional wildflower species like Rudbeckias or other that are in the mix. And then into your third through fifth year, you start to get those more longer-lived perennial species. In that 3 to 5 years, you also start to establish more of a seed bank. We've been working with Lone Tree Hill in Belmont for a number of years, and we established the similar pollinator patches through areas that had managed out invasive plants. And that seed has started to move and drift and establish through other parts of the meadow. And it really has to do with it does take time, obviously, for that to take place, and also stewardship and care of that over a period of years as well. I don't know if that answered your question, but certainly you're absolutely right that meadows do take time for establishment.
Yes, and to your point, Miles, the sort of strategic mowing at certain times, for example, maybe, sort of early, before May, and maybe again later in the summer to get rid of the foxtail or suppress the annual grasses that are growing there now. Seem from the MAC presentation certainly seemed like a requirement in order to give the native seeds an opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
So does your plan include mowing the 5,000 square foot plots, or
It does, yes. Yep.
does it include mowing the whole property or just the 5 patches?
Yeah, so there'd be, I believe there's an annual mowing over the entire property, but in this particular proposal, we're just speaking about the pollinator patches. And if the seed was, we're getting a little late in the season this year for dormant seeding. So we would probably move towards like a late spring removal of the sod and then a seeding at that time. And that does limit the amount of those cool season grasses that you'll typically see come in the spring by cutting and removing in late spring. So it does very much depend, obviously, on the time of year that you apply the seed. But as we quickly extend out of the dormant season for sowing wildflower seed, we would probably at this point do it in the later part of spring leading up to the grant.
And you would remove the sod so you had a bare ground for the seed to take.
Correct.
Yeah, and then you'd mow at some point, I don't know, July or something, or August, sometime before the whatever the emergent annual grasses started to set, before they set seed, right? Seed heads.
That's correct. You'd want to just remove the annual seed heads. That's correct.
Yeah. And then realistically, I confess I'm a little bit of a skeptic that seed drift from the 1,000 square foot plots is going to make much of a dent on the rest of the property, at least not for a long time. But please contradict me if I'm pessimistic.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that there are other methods that could be, could be entertained here. Definitely, certainly not in this proposal. But, I will say that oftentimes, during the dormant season, you can cut or mow the cool season grasses tightly to the ground and do like a plug drill of native wildflower seed across the entire meadow. And that would give it, a more consistent look and feel. Obviously, that's not what we're proposing here. But, partially because we're just looking to establish like plots that would be more like educationally based, rather than other projects that we've taken on, which are essentially like establishing, pollinator meadows in an old field or old agricultural fields, or even removal of lawn for meadow. And so, but for this particular project, it's more of these patches.
Thank you. And that makes sense to me. I know that wildflower restoration is a pretty big project, can be pretty expensive. I've heard that the seed can cost up to $300 a pound for very, very highly specialized micro location native seed types. Probably not the average, of course, and then it can run somewhere between 8 and 15K an acre to accelerate the transfer, to do something fairly radical to establish a native meadow. I don't know if that's.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's good. That's absolutely, I feel like those are good. That's good information. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, hold on, Sue. I'll get to you in a second. Does it make sense, and maybe this is a question for Megan, for us to come take a look at the project that you're doing in Belmont right now, just to see how it's operating and what sort of the success you're having?
If that's a question for me, I would say that could be a good idea, but I think yeah,
Later
I
in the
think
season?
from the last Conservation Commission meeting, the commission had said that before they really look at the land management plan and decide if they, approve of it and everything, that they wanted to talk to Grow Native first about some of the license concerns that CCF had. So I think that should be the conversation first at our next meeting, and then from whatever comes of that conversation that you guys have with Grow Native, then we can look at the land management plan more specifically after. And if you wanted to take a site visit somewhere to help understand, then I think that would be useful.
All right, thank you. Sue, your hand is up,
Muted.
but you're muted. There you go. Oh. Still can't hear you. Is your microphone?
Hear me now?
Yes, thank
Hear
you.
me now? Thank you, Miles. And thanks, Lisa, asking the question she did to help link it all together, because I was wondering if the way you describe the project makes sense to me. But what I'm confused about is most of my education came from the Land Stewardship Committee, and that didn't make sense to me. So I'm wondering if you can help me connect the dots. So you have a list of invasives that exist in the field, but I don't think you have a list of the seed bank. So LSC talks about we have an existing seed bank and we have to hug, and make sure we get these seeds going. It's like you're creating a seed bank and sending your seed bank into the making a native meadow, correct? Is there an existing seed bank, and is there a list of those seeds in the existing on the property already?
Is there a list of the existing
So when I
seed
ask LSC, there's a seed bank. Woodward property is used for your project because of the existing seed bank, and I've never had an answer. What is that? You described a list of invasives and how you're going to create your gardens with native plants and propagate that, which makes sense to me. But is there an existing seed bank that makes property important for that project? Are there a list of a seed bank that exists right now?
So is there an existing list of seeds in the seed bank on the property?
Yeah.
I think she's referring to a native seed bank.
Thank you.
Or is there another way is to piggyback on Sue's question? Is there something about this parcel of land that made it special for you guys to choose this parcel? Or is it having a town like Carlisle that supports your project and a parcel of land to have these sort of patches for educational purposes and bring in a new seed bank that as you've outlined?
Thank you, Ned.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Thank you. Better wording. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think this goes back towards late summer, early fall of last year, when the Landscape Stewardship Committee had put out a proposal for for Woodward Meadow.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's why the site in particular was chosen, was due to that.
Due to them just advertising it.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And to your question about the seed bank, there's I mean thousands of seeds that are within that, existing seed. Any level of disturbance will restart a type of succession of whatever that might be. disturbance would certainly seed in anything that exists in that soil bank. You typically start out with early successional crabgrass, smartweed, ragweed, and it could also have other native plant species that are in that seed bank, as well as invasive plant species. But other than the analysis of that were shown in the plan to show the invasive plant species and also the natives that are there, there has not been any analysis on what's existing in the soil. If that answers your question.
My exact question, because that was what was told to the community, that there was an existing seed bank of
natives. Yeah.
Natives. Thank you for the wording. This is number forte of natives that made that particular field exceptionally specifically perfect for this project. And it never made sense to me, but your project and how you propagate specifically things, that makes sense. So
Okay.
I thought you would be able to debunk the other description. So
Okay.
because I never was really understanding why this field. And the answer is it just happened to be what they advertise, but there isn't necessarily anything super special. I know I think Christina mentioned about there's a particular milkweed that's special, but do you not touch that milkweed because the butterflies will grow or propagate from that milkweed? I'm not sure the right wording.
Yeah, so that's just a common milkweed that you'd often find in open fields, and it is a host plant for the monarch caterpillar. And yeah, so that would be left as a native plant in this particular proposal.
Okay, thank you so much for clearing that up for me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thanks to Melissa for great questions.
All right, Tony, I think you were next.
I just wanted to point out that there are some unique species at the Woodward Field plot, and not just the common milkweed, but there's 3 species in total. I believe there's swamp milkweed as well, which is kind of we haven't seen it elsewhere in Carlisle. So there are some unique plants there, and it might be worth someone taking a look and finding out what else is there. So that's all I wanted to add.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Tony.
Christina.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm actually going to just echo what Tony said, because I was as liaison back then to LSC from ESC. I attended a lot of the meetings and sort of was aware from the beginnings the origins of why Woodward, and it is because there were abundant specimens, plants of the 3 milkweed types there. And it wasn't just like a few scattered. It was because of the 3 different species and the abundance of them, which would lead one to believe that there would be an abundance of seeds in that soil, given the number of plants that existed. So just wanted to echo that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great. I will say too that just kind of off of these ideas, we were pretty late to get out to the site last year. And, as I mentioned, it was fall by the time that we got out there. The images will, start to represent that kind of early fall time period. So, certainly as we would approach this work, there would be a lot more eyes like in the field and starting to notice other aspects of what is emerging in the spring. And the team is keyed into the identification of the milkweed species as well as other native wildflower species. And we would certainly work around those. In in the graphic that for whatever reason I'm not able to show too, we're also like talking about that upper side, that what I've called the upper meadow. It would be the area of these pollinator patches. So that's like farthest away from that, jurisdictional wetland area, adjacent to like Maple Street and that bend. So like in that more upland area as well. I suspect that swamp milkweed would certainly be more down next to that image that I showed of like the sensitive fern and speckled alder towards the edge of that wetland, but much more of a wet meadow in that lower meadow area.
All right, thank you. Alex, would you try to wave your hand? I saw something floating over my screen.
I was. I'm technically incompetent, so probably explains why it flew away. Miles, thank you. I wanted to just follow up a little bit on Melissa's question. And so, as I understand it, the grant application that's been submitted would provide funding for work to be done in basically the next 3 months, right? But it doesn't, my question is, does it fund anything beyond the first 3 months of work? And alternatively, how would you envisage funding what, if I understood your answer to Melissa correctly, would be a multi-year effort?
Yeah, that's a great question, Alex. So Grow Native Massachusetts is, our executive director, Heather, is consistently looking for grant opportunities and has so successfully for other projects. And with approval, like we have some private donorship as well as some other grant opportunities that we would seek specifically for this meadow. And that's other than that, at this time, we've spent a lot of time like visiting the site, doing some initial inventory work, speaking to members of the Landscape Stewardship Committee and others involved, such as yourselves, to attempt to try to get this project off the ground. And even the idea of like going for this biodiversity grant funding was kind of an arm of that, with the hope that we would get approval for it. So the idea, even if we didn't get, so two things happening here: if we don't get approval for this particular site, or we don't get the biodiversity grant, the two things kind of have to line up together. If we were to get approval and not the grant, we would seek other grant opportunities. And with this being a 5-year, or it was a 5-year opportunity on the site, we would seek other opportunities during that time. So that's really the idea. It's been a bit of a slow process, and we would want to continue to look into those opportunities, with approval for other grants. I don't know if that fully answers your question, but there are opportunities out there for us to fund it.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then the management plan that you prepared and you went through a little bit earlier tonight, was that the basis of the grant application? Is that what the grant application was supposed to fund?
Yes, that was in the addendum for the grant application. Yes.
So if the grant application is granted, then the Commonwealth's expectation is that you would carry out what's shown in the management plan. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes.
All right. No, I only ask because it's been said, it's the management plan is just some ideas. It doesn't necessarily have to be what's done. And I just got confused by all that. So
Yeah, no, that's absolutely valid. And we've even internally, just to be completely, upfront and honest about this, internally, we've even said like, well, let's say that, Carlisle Conservation decides that they don't want to move forward on this particular property. Might there be other sites? And honestly, as I was listening to Mark Duffy speak about his agricultural sites and thinking about the cranberry bog and him wanting to kind of step out of that site, having not been good for corn or for haying, having not seen the site at all, but having him describe kind of that barren kind of gravelly plantscape. That's precisely the type of habitat that like a native meadow would want to be established in. So if it's not this particular site at Woodward, might there be another site that might be more suitable within the town of Carlisle, or outside of the town for that matter? We've even talked internally about like, might we take this concept, this idea, and move it to other conservation lands within Massachusetts, just to create, pollinator habitat.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
You answered my questions. Thank you.
Well, do we have any other comments from commissioners?
I have comments, but I think it would be better to wait until the next meeting. It's getting late.
Well, it's past my bedtime, I know.
We got a long way to go.
All right, well.
Hey, George, I wonder if I might make a quick comment. It's Chris Spinney.
Sure, Chris.
Yeah, just, for the next meeting, you're talking about the CCF letters and the license and things. I just, as an abandoned land stewardship committee member, or whatever it is you want to call me at this point, we had done a lot of work on the license and the project to try to identify a lot of concerns. And I just hate to see the CONSCOM sort of start over. So on that next meeting, when you want to talk to Grow Native, if you want a sort of a summary of all the things that we learned in the time, I mean, it was a lot of work and a lot of meetings. Just to put that out there for you, for your consideration, that I'd be happy to join in. We just identified a lot of things in the license itself, in the conservation restriction, some of the things that CCF also pointed out. But we were still working pretty hard to try to find some compromises or things, because I think it was my sense that we found some good partners in Grow Native for the town and Parterre. So that was our effort on that subcommittee. There is a little bit of work I can share with you at that meeting if you're interested, and I'd be happy to do that.
That'd be great, Chris. And if you have anything that you want to, I don't know if the subcommittee ever, if they kept track of things in different documents or, had anything like that, feel free to send that along to me and I can share with the commission prior to the meeting.
Okay. I'll do that, Megan.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry Brian's not here too. I'm sure he has a lot of information that he could share in addition.
Yes,
Sue,
I was able to get some correspondence from Brian this week actually with CCF and such, so I can share that before the next meeting as well.
that'd be great. Sue, did you have your hand up again, or?
Well, I was really happy to hear that Miles would be open to other properties too. If Woodward doesn't work, then the Cranberry Bog is a wonderful option with parking.
Well, you should definitely go take a look.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it was a great spot. So all the work that the SC subcommittee did on that license, first, I don't think it would be in vain. It would just Woodward with Cranberry Bog. And there wouldn't be all that parking that to deal with. Oh, right. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. So Megan, do we need to make a motion at this point? I mean, a lot of
Nope, that
information
was
has been passed
just
around.
no motion is needed. Miles just told us about the plans for the next year. So that's really it. I think we had some good questions asked. I really appreciate your time, Miles. Thanks for sticking around for so long.
Oh yeah, no, it was
And
interesting.
presenting that to us.
Yeah, no, it was very interesting to hear other things going on in town, and used to conservation hearings and a huge aspect of our work. And yeah, no, thank you all, and we'll see you on the 26th. I'll see if I can join Heather at that next meeting.
Yeah, I'll send you guys an email tomorrow just to follow up on this meeting and invite you both and see what we can do.
Sounds good. All right, thank you,
Thanks,
Megan.
Miles.
Thank you, other members of the committee.
Thank you. Megan, one more question. Are we supposed to discuss Fox Hill? I noticed that I don't think we have a rep for that particular property here.
I don't see a rep. I shared the 2025 report form, the
Right.
2026 planning forms to the commission. If anyone,
Okay.
if something comes up later, we can address it at another meeting since we don't have to make any official votes on that tonight.
Determinations. Okay. Sounds good to me. All right. Can we move on to a new and pending business? The answer is yes. So item 1, Land Stewardship Committee, Charter Revision, Review of Stakeholder Feedback and Discussion. Do we have someone to discuss that, Megan, or is that going to be the topic for the next meeting next week?
So we do have a meeting on the 19th, specifically that we scheduled just to devote to the LSC charter. So
Right.
I guess it's up to you how much time you'd like to spend on it tonight, but we did get some feedback from various groups in town. So originally I was thinking you could go through it and decide like what would be worth keeping or not keeping, but if you're feeling like you'd rather do that at the next meeting, that's up to you. I'm happy to share my screen and kind of scroll through, but warning, it would probably take some time. But
Well,
it
then,
is an important subject, so yeah, kind of up to the commission here.
but I think you put the material for that discussion on the town website. So I think it'd be up to us to make the review and prepare to discuss it on the 19th. Is all the information up there actually on the website, Megan? I think it was.
Yes, this is
What
in
I
the
saw.
meeting packet, so you can see every comment that's made.
Mhm.
It's denoted with color, and then it tells you who made that comment. So AgCom, Trails Committee, ESC. And so, yeah, like I said, there's a whole meeting devoted to this a week from today at 7 p.m. So if you rather run through the comments then and decide which feedback you want to incorporate,
I
will.
think that makes more sense. But I have a question for you. I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to go through this again due to my call week. Anything largely substantive in terms of requested edits? Because at first glance, it seems like sort of minor-ish things.
I think it's mostly minor. I think like one thing with the Agricultural Commission, what was that, or committee, was that just like more involvement with them. There was one question by the Trails Committee that I thought was interesting at the end about what the procedure would be if the Trails Committee wanted to build a new trail or relocate a trail on town conservation land. Would we go through Concom for approval or LSC or both? I just thought that was an interesting question. Other than that, the comments seem to be pretty minor. But
Okay.
just a question to consider.
So I think I'll recommend that the commission do homework and be prepared for a meeting a week from today, and we'll hopefully come to closure on that item.
I assume it's not too late to make changes. I mean, make some suggestions on this document.
No, I would say 48 hours before would probably be when I say maybe not anymore, just because I want to have everything on the website prior to the meeting and allow you all to have time to look it over. But yes, I will still take feedback now.
And it's conceivable someone could attend the meeting.
Yes.
And have more changes, so.
Yes, definitely.
I definitely anticipate there'll be changes during the meeting. Yeah, so if any commission members have anything they wanted to edit in the revised charter, I would say just send it to Megan and I in track changes, and we can apply it to that big draft that we've been keeping everything in.
Yes, thank you, Noel. And I'm putting this in the chat because I was asked, but you can find this track changes document in our meeting packet for tonight's meeting, and we'll also make it available we'll make a meeting packet for the March 19th meeting, and we'll include it in there as well. But right now you can find it in the March 12th meeting packet.
I did go through it and made some changes, but it didn't seem to say who they were from, so I have to figure out why that didn't happen. So I'll do it again.
You must have been using invisible ink.
Yeah.
Christina, you have one
electron.
last. Christina, you have one last comment?
Hi, thank
Before
you.
we move
Yes. I noticed that, ESC made 2 comments, but didn't actually do suggested. Well, we made one suggested edit, but I didn't, the 2 main big comments, I don't see them transferred to this red line document. And one was, we thought it was odd that in the core principles that ecological preservation was not one of the core principles listed.
Oh, I thought I saw that in there.
And
yeah, it's in there.
It is? Oh, did I
Yeah.
just completely miss it now? I apologize. It's
okay.
Yeah, here's is that where it is? Yeah, the while advancing ecosystem protections.
Yeah, no, but the LSC shall be I don't have my good reading glasses. Shall be the next right there. The LSC shall be guided by 3 core principles, and that is where we were suggesting that shouldn't one of the principles actually be ecological protection?
Yeah, so okay, so we
Oh,
have
so what
it.
do you mean 4 principles?
Yes, I was reading what was there now.
Okay.
So
So it used to be 2 principles. AgCom said they wanted it to be 3. So you're saying you also want to add to it, which I guess would be 4.
Okay, we can
Yeah, well,
I'll change that tomorrow to reflect that.
That's not part of the master plan priorities already?
that's different, I think. Even though the
Okay,
master plan
I
has,
don't know.
even though the surveys for the master plan by far indicated that conservation of or protection of open space and natural resources was by far the #1 priority. I think that's different than having a core principle coming from Conservation Commission to protect ecological, the ecology of conservation land. I think that's a little different.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
So next on the agenda, discussion of the Land Steward Committee remaining FY26 budget and priority land uses for FY26.
Yes.
Are there some highlights here? I'm looking for a summary to say we should focus on this, maybe.
I can give you a summary, or I'll do my best with my brain working not very well, but I'll try. Yes, so I basically put together all the expenses so far from this fiscal year, and the expenses that I'm anticipating this month that I know are going to be spent. And so basically that totals to just about $20,000. The appropriated budget is basically 44,000. So that leaves us with $24,000 approximately to work with. It seems like all the previous expenses are mostly related to like kind of more like day-to-day maintenance, trash pickup, dog bags, some invasive work, things like that. But the main expenses that still remain and some priorities that we should be looking at for the remainder of this fiscal year relate to field mowing, invasive species treatment, which the treatment aspect is herbicide treatment, and then invasive species management, which relates to mechanical removal of invasives. So these are the anticipated expenses that I think are a priority, and I was able to talk to Alex Parr and Chris Spinney and also Sylvia just to run through what LSC had requested for their budget. And so we went through the line items and all the different field mowings. So for example, we kind of talked through which sites require field mowing. So we have Benfield, Toll, and Foss. In the LSC budget, they have the Cranberry Bog, but they all pointed out to me that the bog doesn't have to be mowed to the fall. So we don't have to worry about that for this fiscal year because the fiscal year ends at the end of
June 30th, yeah.
Exactly. So LSC estimated the cost of that mowing for those 3 fields to be just about $4,000. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what they quoted, so that's what I put here. And then you can see the same thought process for invasive species management and invasive hand pulling. The other big expense or larger expense that I'll point out is this beaver management. So we currently have a beaver deceiver at Greeno, and so Beaver Solutions does annual maintenance of that area, and so we get an annual bill for that, which I found out was $960. So we know that we're going to have to be prepared to pay that. But then on top of that, as we evaluate the Otter Slide Trail and possibly needing some pond levelers or flow devices or beaver receivers there, I just estimated at kind of like the highest cost, which would be around $3,760 for the annual maintenance and the installation of another beaver receiver, possibly. And those are kind of the big highlights. I was hoping with permission from the commission that I could inquire about the costs of mowing these 3 fields and try to get some quotes from some mowers in the area so we could have a better understanding of what it might cost to get those fields mowed. And I know this is kind of urgent, so I was hoping to get on that quickly. And
were we thinking about getting the town to do some of this mowing for us?
so the DPW is gonna mow the trails. They said that they would help if we needed it to mow some of the fields, but they're
Okay.
gonna primarily be focused on the trails. So we would still need to find someone to help us mow the fields.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Well, I move to authorize Megan to reach out to mowers for those fields.
Seconded.
Mowers. So Dan, Navneet,
And
and
the Foss field is up around the pony rings. Is that what it includes? I think we should
Are
be
you
clear.
asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking. I just the only area that gets mowed other than right around the community gardens and along the cart path, which in the past has been done by Jonathan Deacock. The only other area is the grassy area in the vicinity of the horse rings. And I just want to make sure that when Megan is looking for mowers, that the mower understands what area is being asked to be mowed.
Yes,
Yeah.
I will. You have my word that I will do some research before I point a mower to a property. I will.
In the past, the pony ring area was, and it's a fairly expanded area because of the horse activity that's always taking place down there. It was done by the Pony Club, but we're not there yet. So, and it didn't get done really, for the most part, last year, or even the year before.
Okay.
Yeah, I recall, Sylvia, in the meeting that we had, I marked up a map when we were going through the different sites of the areas. So I'll probably use those and also check in, of course, with you and other knowledgeable people in town before I, before I inquire.
And mowing the bog is a totally different.
Yes. Yeah.
And Megan, now that Sarah is going to be working on this, I would have her make a top priority for her to kind of understand the critical mowing areas or restricted areas. Work with you on that, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thank you.
I think one of the issues with toll is that there was a procedure put in place for mowing portions from one year to another, and in the past few years, and then last year it didn't get done at all. So what's the best thing? And then of course it got very tall, and now we had a lot of snow that's laying all the grasses down, and laying down grasses are harder to mow than ones that stand up. So gotta figure that out.
Yeah, I can figure that out. I know Judy Azarkoff had sent me I think it was from 2022. It was a mowing plan for Toll that highlighted the best practices of rotating what years you mow which field. And she also sent me the minutes from the meeting where the commission voted to approve of that plan. So I'll definitely use that. And she also mentioned that Shane Usher, who was a former LSC member, previously had volunteered to mow the field. So the trail. Anyways, I'll be checking in with him to see if he can still offer that service if he's willing. So yes, I will. I'm gonna try to look into everything with the resources that I have.
And then it all has to fit in with herbicide treatment.
All right, we have a motion to let Megan put together a plan or a summary, at least, from Dan and Navneet. Can I take a roll call vote, please?
It was a motion to request sort of or
Mowers.
inquire about mowers, yeah.
Right, understood. So Navneet,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Dan,
I
Sylvia,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, the motion passes.
And just so you all know, this isn't going to be like the last time you see this kind of stuff. Obviously, while the commission is taking over LSC responsibilities, I'm going to keep you all involved. I'm not going to be making any decisions behind the scenes. I'm going to keep relaying the priorities that I recommend executing as time goes on. So this is not the last you'll see of all this. Don't you worry.
Oh no, we're excited to hear more.
We were very worried. Thank you for that.
All right, item 3, let's pay some bills.
All right, you want me
So,
to run through these things?
sure, as quickly as possible. No, yes, please.
Okay, I got this. Carlisle rubbish invoice for $60. This can be paid from LSC's repair and maintenance budget. We have a bill from Sumco, which is related to the Cranberry Bog Dam #1 GPR work, which can be paid out of our CPA Cranberry Bog Dam #1 fund. We still have a lot remaining in that count, about 275,000. And then we have a Weston and Sampson bill for the H&H study at the Cranberry Bog, which can be paid from the associated CPA account. And then we have a $182 bill from the Carlisle Mosquito for the legal ad for posting about the annual farmers meeting that we had tonight. So that can be paid out of the general fund printing and legal ad line item. And that is all of the bills.
So can I get a motion to accept these bills as stated?
So moved.
Indeed.
seconded by Dan.
Dan, thank you very much. All right, and we'll take a roll call vote. Sylvia,
Aye.
Dan,
I
Melissa,
Aye.
Nick,
Hi.
Navneet,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, the motion passes. All right, minutes approval. So, Megan, would you please read all the minutes for us? No.
Yes, sure. Do you have a couple more hours?
Actually, it's not that bad. I only took half an hour to get through both of them.
Yeah, they're shorter than before, which I appreciate. There was, after I circulated the minutes, the only person that had edits that I saw was Sylvia. Let's see, from the February 9th minutes, I think the only correction was spelling Chris Spinney's name correctly. And then from the February 12th minutes, a lot of the corrections just had to do with capitalization of Conservation Commission and other words. So correct me if I'm wrong, Sylvia, but there was no actual like major changes. It was all
The only other one, well, there was at the top of, I read them again today, just have nothing else to do. And I found a couple other things. Of page 2 at the very top.
of the
there's a-
9th or the 12th.
I'm sorry, the 12th. There's an incomplete sentence. I think it got cut off and a new sentence formed or something. Very first sentence at the top of page 2. I think.
I think that's because you I think you did that.
I did that?
I do, yeah, because I think you capitalized commission
Oh,
and
okay.
you did
Yeah,
enter.
capitalized
Yeah,
C.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay, can you scan down to page 7?
almost there. Okay,
Yeah.
7.
And go to number 12. Well, number 7.
Informational items, yeah.
Yeah, number 12D. Add to that from the Conservation Commission's budget.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
See it.
Okay. That's it.
All right, I got a motion to accept the minutes from 9 February.
So moved.
Sylvia. You get a second?
Second.
You're busy tonight, Dan. So we'll take a roll call vote. Navneet,
Abstain.
Nick,
Aye.
let's see, Melissa,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Sylvia,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The motion passes. Can I get a motion to accept the February 12th minutes?
So moved.
Navneet,
Second.
Dan, and we'll go with Navneet first this time.
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Sylvia,
Aye.
when the chair votes aye, that passes too. Okay. Item number 5, Cranberry Bog updates. So Megan, I missed the tour. How was it?
It was good. It was the first time I had ever been in the Cranberry Bog House. So I was pretty excited. It's pretty cool in there. But yeah, this is just an informational item. That we had a site visit with the architects working on the feasibility study at the Cranberry Bog House, and it was really intended for the Historical Commission to give some feedback on what elements they wanted to preserve and incorporate into the possible new design of the house. So really wasn't related to, well, kind of related to us, but more informational. Sylvia was there. But
Yeah, I was there because I was aware of what was done in the stabilization project in 2011. And there were some questions about, what the building looked like originally, et cetera. So I've gone in a couple of days this week to look over the some old photos of the building and document the stabilization, the wording of the, what was done, as well as some photos from the a material that was evaluated on the bog of the house when the town bought it, the appraisals, and there were some photos in there. So I thought I would put that all together in a little package and give it to Julie when it's done, to give to the architects. I found that there was once a shed associated with the Bog House, which was interesting. So never saw that before.
All right, so that was point A. Then there's the issue of the New England bluet and the 12-spotted tiger beetle. I appreciate
Yes.
the pictures.
Yes, Steve Tobin made me aware of that, and I thought it was good to share with the commission, so we know what's on our conservation land. And he was able to put together those slides and pictures that you saw. I know Steve's here tonight. I don't know if you have anything else you want to share, Steve?
Yeah, I don't think I want to go through both presentations given the late hour, and I have to get up early in the morning to go out to Amherst for the Mass Land Conservation Conference. I guess the point is that we are very fortunate in Carlisle that we have conservation land that supports rare species, and just want to make sure that we take those into account when we're talking about making changes to the properties.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm aware of the 12-spotted beetle, and I'm aware of now of this, thanks to you, because you told me about this as well. What I don't know is anything about them. Have they been officially reported to the Natural Heritage?
Yes.
And because we have always in the past gotten a copy of the reports for our files and gotten the response back from Natural Heritage. And second, I would love to know more about the life cycle of these critters so that we know or can plan ahead on what it is that it needs to be done or watched out for when we're doing land management. I mean, is it important to keep away from this particular area in May and June, but all right to mow, say, the end of August? That's the kind of information that we need, and we don't have it.
Right. So to the first question, the New England Blewett was just listed by the state in September, so they weren't keeping track of it until now. But I submitted a whole bunch of reports to National Heritage for times that I've seen in the past.
Oh, good.
So they should have that in their database now. The 12 spotted, I don't know how much is in their database. When they came out with this new report, they have a web page for each species that has a fair amount of information about their
Okay.
life cycle. And I pulled out some of that in the presentation I sent you guys.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to sit down with you, Sylvia, and tell you what I know. And I've got a lot of references for dragonflies. And
I know you do.
All
No,
right,
I
take a
just think
seat.
it's really important for the commission to have this kind of information in their files so that they can, in their planning, work around it. And I know the 12 spotted beetle was in the most recent open space and recreation report, so it's been known to be around for a while, but I never got the information that was even being submitted. So I don't know if it was submitted, but so I'm
yeah,
sure
I guess
it was.
I guess the things to think about are there was a proposal last meeting about more intensive use of the horse areas at Foss Farm,
Mhm.
and that's pretty much where the 12 spotted tiger beetles are located. So I would be hesitant about parking 20 trailers right there in the middle of their habitat, that sort of thing. And also at the Cranberry Bog, the New England Blewett is mostly along, I guess it's called Dam Number 2.
That's the
pond-
Fifth Street. That's
yeah,
the
the
Fifth
Fifth Street. So the juveniles are in the water. So the vegetation next to the dam is very, very important. And the adults are in the vegetation above the water right along the dam. So we need to, take account of those two habitats.
Yeah. And we should talk to you about that as well, because that then needs some work on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
And just to make our lives really happy, I was out there yesterday and there's a hole opening up in that dam.
No, we didn't want to hear that.
No, I know you didn't.
there's no more snow melt coming, so you have to worry about that, right?
Yeah.
I'm working
All
on
right,
it,
well-
by the way, just so everyone knows.
What you say?
I said I'm working on it.
Oh, what, the hole?
Yeah, I got DPW in the lineup.
Okay, good.
Just put a Band-Aid on it.
All right,
I've
I think
never
that
seen one there before.
I think that takes care of the informational items on number 5. The last item is CPC updates.
Oh, gosh. We have a meeting within the next couple of weeks. How's that?
Perfect.
I went through it last week.
Yeah.
We have a meeting coming up, so.
Perfect.
So it sounds like there's nothing new since last
Nothing
week.
new, yeah.
All right.
Except
can I get
they were just, I think they were distributed Megan's email. No, I guess not. It wasn't them. It was another committee. Well, maybe it was them. I don't know. Busy day.
All right. Well, thank you all. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Dan?
Second.
Sylvia, thank you very much. And now that we're all still awake, we'll take a quick vote. Navneet?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Melissa? Must be riding.
Aye.
Okay. Dan?
Aye.
Sylvia?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The adjournment happens. Thank you all.
Here, everybody.
Good
Thanks, everyone.
Night.
See you next week.
See you next week.